Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton at Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada, we love you. In Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, on a beautiful October the 18th, 2019. Grondo Deportes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, it's wonderful for us down here in the south, but it's kind of miserable up in the northeast, everybody up in New York after that drubbing that they took last night from the Astros. But they can look forward to college and pro football here on the weekend.
Well, they say it's all fair and love and war. It is the Big Apple. What do they say? If you can win in New York, you can win anywhere. Or maybe if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. It's all going down tonight in New York. Will the Yankees, will they fold in the tents? Or will they go back down to Texas and play? It's all good. A lot of high school football going on in Big C's Friday Night Lights. College football going on as well. Top 10 rankings and black college football, as well as the NFL is going strong. And then NBA is right around the corner. They're bouncing a lot of basketballs. Big C, I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, just tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Today also, Big C Sports brought to you by Google and Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You'll hear from our sponsors. You'll hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing, and really appreciate where we're going with Big C Sports. Also, Big C Sports can be seen on Xfinity, Comcast Television, also launching on Apple TV, Roku TV, Fire TV, Android TV, and smart TVs all over the universe. Big C, I know there's a lot of sports to cover, but I still want to make sure that we get into our National Suicide Hotline, because a lot of times people have issues and they just need someone to call and talk to. Big C, why is that so important to you?
Well, Charlton, is important because of the horrific events that so many people have taken their lives in America over the last several decades, Charlton, and the suicide rate amongst veterans is at a horrific number, and there's never enough attention given to that on a national scale. When we think about all the things that are going on in Washington, all the infighting and everything, there's never any talk about how to make lives better for veterans. Yeah. And that's the #1 thing we need to always concentrate on in this country, Charlton. Those people who have given so much over the years in protection of this country, and now at times like this, especially when you have these weekends that are just loaded with sports, no one pays attention to people that are in need. And this is the times when they're most vulnerable. Yep. So the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number is there for people to talk to in anonymity, to not be judged, not to be thought about as somebody who is less, not to give up on somebody. So don't hesitate if you find somebody who is struggling emotionally, mentally. Try to find a way to give them this number, to have them call, to have somebody to talk to them. We don't always have the advice that's needed to be given to a person in the real world, Charlton. But these are experts. These are experts who are used to talking to people, finding out what their problems, and help solve them through the National Suicide Prevention Hotline.
Yeah, and all they got to do is just pick up the phone and call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. And hopefully get some help. Jesus said, if you love me, feed my sheep. We're trying to feed sheep, Big C. Pick up the phone and call. Last night, also, just getting in before we get into Big C's Friday Night Lights, I want to just say, for all the kids out there that are going to high school football games, please be safe. Let your parents know where you are. Please, no drinking and driving. Have fun, but don't do anything foolish. That's wisdom from Big C Sports. I want to just get on a lot going on in the sports universe. I want to start out tonight's show with Big C's Friday Night Lights, just to pay homage to the high school kids that are out there doing their thing. And we know if you have money, you can travel all over the country. Big C, #1 in the country, modern day, Santa Ana, California. They seem to be #1 every year. They've done it for the last 3 years in high school football. They're playing at Santa Margarita. #2, St. John Bosco, Bellflower, California. #3, this is a big game, Big C, IMG Academy of Bradenton, Florida. They're ranked #3 in the country. They're playing on the road at #5, St. Francis Academy out of Baltimore, Maryland. And they're 6-1. IMG 7-0. The only game these two teams have lost in the last 3 years is to modern-day Santa Ana. This is a big game. Florida going up to Washington. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, it's amazing when you have a recruiting budget on the high school level how you can expand your opportunities to play across the country, Charlton. And, this is one of those things that we look at. When you send these kids out across the country to play, what do you look at academically with these kids? What day do they leave the town that they're living in to go play high school football on a Friday night in another state?
That's a very good point, Big C. Number 4, Duncanville, Texas. They're playing at Pierce of Richardson, Texas. Number 5, you have Centerfield Beach, and they're playing number 6, St. Thomas Aquinas out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And you look at the next team coming up is Deer Beach. They're playing, St. Thomas Aquinas. Lakeland, Florida is ranked number 8. They're playing at Bloomingdale out of Veracruz, Florida, so that's an in-state game. You have 7 Lakes out of Katy, Texas, at number 9, Katy, Texas. So if they have 7 Lakes, they probably have at least 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 6. That make any sense? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that's what I like about some of those teams, Charlton. When you talk about Florida and Texas, they're staying in state. There's enough competition within state, Charlton, and they're playing within their district. There's something about high schools, Charlton, that has a tradition where they can win their conference, and you can see the same guys for 4 years that you grew up playing against. That's the way that I grew up playing high school football, and I always reminisce about that.
Yeah, this big money comes in, Big C, and money changes things. If some school is going to get $100,000 for getting on an airplane, they're probably going to take that money, even though they don't share that money with the kids. Sterling, Baytown, Texas, playing number 10, North Shore, Texas. And also tied for number 10, you have San Ramon Valley of Danville, California. They're playing Concord de La Salle, also picked number 10, so depending on what poll you believe in. Again, Big C's Friday Night Lights. A lot of you, this will be the last chance for you to play competitive football. Not everybody goes on to college, Big C, and not everybody goes on to pros, definitely. So please be safe out there. Have lots of fun on Big C's Friday Night Lights, but don't do anything foolish. You don't want the police chasing after you because you'll hear sirens, and you definitely don't want that pulling up on you. Big C, I want to get into what's going on right now in the world of Major League Baseball. Everybody's talking about it. The Yankees. It's hard to see, and I can say fairly, America's prodigal team in the Yankees being knocked out, winning, one game. They won game 1, had a chance at game 2, but now they can't seem to find themselves. Give me your thoughts on what happened last night when Houston came in and celebrated, and of course, CC Sabathia, don't want to see his last game end in an injury, but that might be the writing on the wall, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at the Houston Astros, a lot of people, Charlton, across the country don't realize who they are.
Yeah.
They were the best team in Major League Baseball this past season. They had the most victories of everybody. You talk about the Dodgers out on the West Coast. The Dodgers could not eclipse the number that the Astros had during the regular season, nor could the Yankees.
Right.
When I look at the most telling part of this series, Charlton, and even throughout the playoffs, is that the two teams that led the major leagues in home runs were the Minnesota Twins and the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
Yet the long ball has failed them throughout the playoffs.
Yeah.
If something got you there and you're not able to execute that during the playoffs when it's colder outside and the ball doesn't always carry as well, you have to learn how to manufacture runs. That's something that the Houston Astros have done in this series. They've learned how to manufacture runs.
Yeah.
We talked about the great pitching rotation that they have. And they've delivered throughout this series. Last night, Greinke was phenomenal on the mound for the Astros.
Yep.
He got off to a rocky start. He spotted the Yankees one run, but it seemed to hold them in check, Charlton, and they jumped on them and put out a commanding lead. They were up 6-1 before the Yankees thought that they had fought back into the contest at 6-3. But the Astros went out and hung 2 more on the board.
Yeah.
This is what a team that has been there before. We talk about the Yankees, what they did in the past. There's nobody left with the Yankees that were there during those glory days of winning the home World Series, except for CC Sabathia.
Yeah.
And he went down with an injury last night.
Yeah, that's a shame if that's the way it goes out. You don't want to close the curtain with an injury, especially a guy like CC. Everybody likes him. I want to just pick up some thoughts that I heard some of the commentators saying last night, Frank Thomas and also Big Papi and then A-Rod. They were saying how the Yankees didn't really know what position that we're going to be playing or even sometimes starting before even the first pitch. The Astros knew that all along, so that might be some inside information. But last night, when you think about it, Houston goes up 3-1, and they beat the Yankees 8-3. the Yankees, since that game one, they've had a hard time even scoring runs. So when you look at Houston, again, this team was built through the draft, and they won the World Series 2 years ago, knocked out by Boston last year, but now they're like the senior class. We talk about Big C Friday Night Lights, so that unity has really helped them, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this is a team that's been in this path before. You talk about they won the World Series just 2 short seasons ago.
Yeah.
So they kept this team intact. So they know what it takes to get through this grind of the playoffs. New York has come up short the past couple of years, and it's like what we talk about in football. You can't worry about what used to be when a program was dominant, because
right.
The kids that are playing today, and even the men that are playing Major League Baseball, weren't around to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And the guys that you're getting now are about productivity. And you look at the guys from Houston, they don't get swayed by the media.
No.
They play in a media market, even though it's the number 4 media market in America.
Yeah.
They're not on the big stage as far as the national landscape.
Yeah,
so they can fly under the radar and have success.
Yeah, you still see cowboy boots down there at the stadium in Texas. So starting tonight for the Yankees, on the mound you have James Paxton. That good old boy is 15-6. He has an ERA of 3.82, 186 strikeouts. But he's in deep waters, Big C. That the Hudson River is pretty deep because he's pitching against a guy by the name of Justin Verlander. Now, he got hit in this last game, but they tried to pitch him on a short rest. Verlander, 2.58 ERA. He's 21-6 on the season. And this good old boy, when you think about it, he has 300 strikeouts on this season. I know that if there's anything, I would hate to see this not go to Game 7. But it just doesn't seem like it's in the cards. That make any sense, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I'm not sure that this can get to a Game 7. I know that the Yankees are going to come out and do all they can tonight to extend this series, Charlton. Verlander is on the mound, but you know, when you got the inclement weather and Verlander's used to pitching in the dome in Houston,
yeah.
You know, he has to get through that first inning and not be beat up by the Yankees. If he can get through that first inning and calm down, it gives Houston a chance to end the series tonight.
Yeah.
But if the Yankees get on him early, Charlton, I think that the Yankees can extend this to a Game 6.
You know, the way TV works, Big C, sometimes what we see, you know how everybody calls New York all the time. They call New York to see, was it a fumble, was it a touchdown, you know, whatever the call was. Even though we've seen it with their own eyes, they call New York. There's a lot of money that's going to be lost if we lose that New York market for Yankee baseball. That's just a clue. I don't know if that's going to happen tonight, but it's a lot of money lost that they don't get in. So no matter who wins, I know them good old boys from the Nationals are waiting. We'll find out what happens later tonight, Big C. I want to get in to Big C's Black College Football. We're going to go down the rankings for these programs, and we wish them all the best. In Big C Sports, at least my opinion, and you can speak for yourself, I want to make sure, just like Big C Sports, tell somebody about the HBC, because unless you do your research, you don't know how many talented athletes come out of those conferences. Ranked number 1 right now, Southern University, out of the SWAC, followed by number 2, North Carolina A&T, and they're out of the MEAC. Number 3, Alabama State, out of the SWAC. Number 4, Florida A&M University, out of the MEAC, and then Grambling State, out of the SWAC. Big C, Jackson State University, they're out of the SWAC. They're followed by Norfolk State, out of the MEAC. Coppin State's number 8, and they're out of the MEAC. Texas Southern University is out of the SWAC, and then also Delaware State is out of the MEAC. I may be wrong, but I think Michael Strahan also played out of the Black College Football program, Big C, and he's gone on to have stardom, the New York Giants, and now a TV personality. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Strahan is just one of many tremendous athletes that have played at historical black colleges, Charlton. He played at Texas Southern. But you think at one time in the NFL, when you look at the record books of the NFL, the NFL's all-time leading receiver came out of a historical black college.
Yeah.
Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
When he retired from the NFL, the all-time leading rusher in the NFL came out of a historical black college, Jackson State.
Yeah.
Walter Payton.
Yeah.
So as we look at players that have come out of these schools, even Deacon Jones at the time when he retired, even though they wasn't keeping sack totals in the NFL,
right,
who played at a historical black college, was the NFL's all-time sack leader, and probably still is, Charlton, because they just didn't track the sacks back in those days in the NFL. So when you look at the contribution to the NFL from historical black colleges over the decades, they have been the pioneers and the leaders statistically in that league.
Yeah, and it's great that they get some some publicity, at least from Big C Sports. We want to keep bringing that to people. Just like we say, follow Big C Sports. Also, Google those programs down in the black colleges because they play really good football. They just need someone to let people know that they're out there. So as we turn the page, I want to get into Friday night football, college style, and the main blue blood programs. We have some games that are not really that significant on a national scale, but on a local scale they are. We have number 4, Ohio State. They're 6-0, and they're at Northwestern's 1-4. But that 1-4 can be a little bit misleading. I don't think it's going to be a close game at all. It's an 8:30 kickoff on Big Ten Network on a grass surface. Ohio State's favored by 27.5, and I think they'll get it. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Ohio State is one of the dominant teams and one of the 4 remaining undefeated teams in the Big Ten. This is not even a contest between Northwestern and Ohio State. This is a game that Ohio State knows they need to have to stay on pace if they want to get into the college football playoff.
That's very true. UNLV 2-4 at Fresno State, 2-3 a Mountain West Conference game. It's on CBS Sports Network at 10 o'clock kickoff East Coast time. Artificial surface, Fresno State's favored by 16.5. Marshall's 3-3 at Florida Atlantic, and Florida Atlantic's 4-2. Pittsburgh's 4-2 at Syracuse 3-3. That's 7 o'clock East Coast time on ESPN on artificial surface, and Pittsburgh's favored by 3.5. So that's competing with high school football, and obviously they don't care because they got to get that money coming in. But I want to get your thoughts as we get into Saturday. There's a lot of big games. Starting off, number 2 Clemson. They're 6-0, Big C. They're on the road at Louisville, which is 4-2 on the season. It's a noontime start, artificial surface. Now Clemson's favored by 23.5 points, but that Louisville team, they might be able to cover the spread. At least your thoughts?
Well, when you look at what Louisville did last week, they scored over 60 points in beating Wake Forest, who had been undefeated to that point.
That's right.
This is a game that Clemson is really going to have to be on their P's and Q's because Louisville is going to be feeling themselves going into this game, Charlton, and Clemson has shown vulnerability this year.
They really have, especially if you're a North Carolina fan. They didn't show the slide angle of that 2-point conversion, Big C. I thought they got in, but it's all fair and love and war. West Virginia 3-3 at number 5 Oklahoma. They're 6-0. That's a noontime kickoff on Fox Sports. It's a grass surface, and them Sooners, they're favored by 33.5. Where are all the halves coming from, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, this is all about the Jalen Hurts show. When you look at what they do throwing the football, Charlton, and running the ball at Oklahoma, and now that they play defense, West Virginia does not have Will Greer this year, so it won't be a shootout.
That's a very good point to make. This is a team that's rolling under the radar when you think about number 6, Wisconsin. They're 6-0. They're at Illinois. They should not call them the Fighting Illini anymore. Just call them the Illini. They're 2-4 in the season. It's a noontime kickoff, Big Ten Network. It's on artificial surface, and Wisconsin's favored by 30.5. How many is there any teams that are favored by 5 anymore, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at Illinois last week, who were only able to muster up a field goal against Michigan. And you think about Wisconsin. Wisconsin has the best defense in the Big Ten, if not the best defense in the country. This game won't even be close. They will cover the spread.
Here's another big game down in the South. You look at number 9, Florida. They're 6-1 on the season. They got had when they went down and tried to take on LSU down there in the real Death Valley, as you call it, Big C. That Florida team is 6-1. They're smarting them. Now they're at South Carolina, which is probably still partying after what happened at Georgia, Big C. It's a noontime kickoff, ESPN, grass surface. Now, them Florida Gators are only favored by 5.5 over a team that might still be partying, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, South Carolina has an outstanding defense, a very physical team. They have a couple of the best defensive linemen in the conference there at South Carolina. When you think about Florida, they're without some of their top pass rushers, which really showed against LSU. How can Trask turn around this week's game, Charlton? He put some points on the scoreboard, but he's going to have to be more consistent against this great South Carolina defense.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. It's at least a game within a touchdown. Here's another big game. We'll keep it down in your neck of the woods, Big C. Number 11, Auburn. They're 5-1. And they're at Arkansas, which is 2-4. That's a noontime kickoff on the SEC network, artificial surface. And Auburn is favored by 18.5. And that looks like, again, this is SEC team. They're an 18.5 dog. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think about Arkansas in this game, Dalton, that might be on the grill at Razorback after the game.
I won't even ask you how good it tastes. I know it tastes really good. Purdue 2-4, all banged up at number 22. Iowa 4-2. Georgia Tech 1-5. They changed the way they won. They don't like the wishbone anymore. They want to pass it, and they're losing a lot of games at Miami, Florida 3-3. I want to kick the ball out to the West Coast, Big C, for them good old boys next to the Pacific Ocean. Oregon State, the Beavers at the Cal Berkeley Golden Bears 4-2. It's a 2:30 kickoff time, East Coast time, Pac-12 Network. Artificial surface, and Cal is favorite by 11.5 points. Last time Cal Berkeley was ranked number 1 in the country, they were knocked off by Oregon State, but that was a different kind of Beaver back in the day, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Oregon State has knocked off a few Pac-12 teams that have been ranked number 1 in the country. USC also.
That's right.
I don't see the Oregon Ducks. I mean, the Oregon State Ducks Beavers having much of a chance in this contest.
No, they're not going to have much of a chance. At least the Bears hope. I think a Bear would beat a Beaver if they had a fair up competition to fight, Big C. Another big game. I'm going to kick it back down south. LSU. They're ranked number 3 in somebody's polls, number 1 in others. They're 6-0. They're at Mississippi State, which is 3-3 on the season. It's a 3:30 kickoff, East Coast time on CBS Sports. It's a grass surface, and LSU's favored by 18.5. This team might be up by 18.5 at halftime, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, LSU just has too much firepower. When we talked about Joe Burrow yesterday, this young man's completing 80% of his passes. Mississippi State lost a lot of classmen last year to the NFL draft.
Yeah.
They don't have the pressure to put on Joe Burrow, and LSU has an outstanding defense.
Well, LSU's loaded. I want to bring it to the Pac-12's hope. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our last hope. Maybe not, though. Number 12, Oregon. They're 5-1 on the season. They're at number 23, Washington. The Huskies are 5-2. In the games that they lost, they were just kind of like, how did they lose that game? But when they get up, they're very tough at home, especially Husky Stadium. Now watch this, Big C. It's a 3:30 kickoff Eastern time on ABC Sports. It's on artificial surface. And Oregon's a 2.5-point favorite at Husky Stadium. That crowd's going to be amazing. You might see a Husky beat a Duck in a straight up fight, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at this game, Charlton, one of these teams are going to be eliminated from the Pac-12 race.
Yeah.
And also going to be eliminated from any outside chance of getting into the college football playoff.
Yeah.
When you look at the Pac-12, I mean, they're really fighting to find an identity within themselves.
Yeah, they're fighting to find, and I wouldn't be surprised. And I mean, I don't pick them, but I think Washington has that game. Number 25, Temple, 5-1 at number 19, SMU, 6-0. A 6-0 team that's only ranked 19th in the country. Is a 3:30 kickoff on ESPN2. It's on artificial surface, and they're only favored by 7.5. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Temple's been good at home, and with the cold weather up there in the Northeast, Charlton, they should easily handle this game.
Yeah, and they're on the road at SMU. Number 20, Minnesota, under the radar at 6-0. They're at Rutgers 1-5. That's going to be a blowout for Minnesota. You have Tulsa 2-4 at number 21, Cincinnati 5-1. That should be a big win by Cincinnati. I want to bring you to another game that's going to have some implications in the Big 12. You have number 18, Baylor. They're 6-0, Big C. They're playing at Oklahoma State 4-2. That's a 4 o'clock kickoff on Fox Sports. Artificial surface. And Oklahoma State's favored by 3.5 against an undefeated Baylor, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Oklahoma State has the leading rusher in the country in Chuba Hubbard. We've seen what Groh has done with Baylor revitalizing that program, having them undefeated in the Big 12. You can't have a slip-up against Oklahoma State, though.
No, this team, I'm telling you, they lost that game to Texas, and they've been close, and it's just time for them to make some noise. If they can knock off Baylor, I think that builds more status for their program as opposed to being just a decent team. Kentucky 3-3 at number 10. Georgia 5-1. Georgia has to be looking for the payback. It's a 6 o'clock kickoff on ESPN, grass surface, and Georgia's favored by 24.5. They got to take this game serious, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Kentucky's been playing with a backup quarterback since the second game of the season. They're not the team that they were last year. They had a double-digit win season. Georgia will rebound in this game and knock off Kentucky. Number
13, Boise State. They're 6-0, also under the radar. They at BYU 2-4 in the season. It's a 10:15 kickoff on ESPN2, East Coast time, of course. And when you look at that game, it's amazing that you can go into BYU and you still get the favorite because it's the high altitude, but they are a 6.5-point underdog at home. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think of the best team west of the Rockies, Charlton, is it Boise State? They're undefeated. They're the only team west of the Rockies that is. But they're playing in the Mountain West Conference, so a lot of people don't give them credit for that. But they will challenge anybody, I think, right now on the West Coast.
Couple of more games, some big games too. On the West Coast, number 17, Arizona State. We play to win the game. 5-1 on the season. They're at number 14, Utah. Utah's also 5-1. At one time, the Pac-12 champion, hopeful anyway. It's a 6 o'clock kickoff, East Coast time on the Pac-12 network. Artificial surface, and Utah's favored by 13.5 on an Arizona team. Arizona State's won on the road at Michigan State. They have also won on the road at Cal Berkeley. Could they do it again, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you know, Herm Edwards has this team ahead of schedule, being 5-1 in his second year after 6 games into the season. Arizona State has a young freshman quarterback in J.T. Daniels who's done a phenomenal job. He's gotten better week after week. Utah is not living up to the praise that everybody had them in the preseason.
Yeah.
If Arizona expects to win this game, Arizona State has to throw the ball frequently against that Utah secondary that likes to play a lot of press man coverage.
They have to. Tulane 5-1 at Memphis 5-1, and that game is Memphis is favored by 4.5 at home. It's a 7 o'clock kickoff East Coast time, ESPN2. That should be a close game. Colorado 3-3 at Washington State, also a 3-3, and that's a big game for the West Coast. But I want to get your thoughts on maybe the game that may have a seminal change in college football. I don't think anyone's going to lose a job, but you have a big game in the Big Ten. You have number 16 Michigan. They're 5-1. They're at number 7 Penn State, 6-0 in Happy Valley. They're going to have a whiteout, Big C, so that gets the crowd more frenzied. 7:30 kickoff, ABC Sports East Coast time. It is a grass surface, and Penn State's favored by 8.5 over Jim Harbaugh. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this is going to be a true clash of the Titans. Michigan probably came off their best game of the season last week in the drubbing of Illinois. But as we look at Penn State and what this team has done defensively, they have a tremendous front seven. They're one of the top scoring teams in the Big Ten Conference, Charlton. And Franklin seems to have righted the ship at Happy Valley.
Yep.
And when you talk about a whiteout at Happy Valley tomorrow night between Penn State and Michigan, I'd like to contrast that to a game on the West Coast in the Pac-12 last night when we watched UCLA and Stanford play.
Yeah.
You talk about the Pac-12 not getting the notoriety. There's going to be 105,000 people in Happy Valley tomorrow night. There were maybe 10,000 people in Stanford Stadium last night for a marquee television Pac-12 game. And so when we look at the Pac-12 not getting the recognition of the other Power 5 conferences, that is the reason why when the rest of the country sees that. And you know what's an ironic thing? If UCLA runs the table in the rest of the conference, Charlton, they can actually play in the conference championship game.
Wow. Say it ain't so, Big C. Say it ain't so. But I'm telling you, it's a lot going on in sports, and anyone can knock off anybody. Another big game is big for the fact that people don't perceive you as number one unanimously. Tennessee is 2-4. They're at number 1 Alabama, which is 6-0. It's a 9 p.m. kickoff ESPN on East Coast time. It's grass surface, and Bama's favored by 34.5 points over them Volunteers. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Jeremy Pruitt, the head coach of Tennessee, is one of 7 Nick Saban assistants that have head coaching jobs right now. And none of those assistant coaches have ever beaten Nick Saban.
Wow. And you might add another one, Big C. 2 more games. On the West Coast, Arizona, 4-2 at Southern California, 3-3 at the Coliseum. It's a 9:30 kickoff East Coast time on the Pac-12 network. It's a grass surface, and USC's favored by 9.5. I think it's all a conclusion that Clay Helton, they're still looking for Clay Helton's replacement, even though they probably won't announce it till the end of the season, just because this crowd, if they get 60,000, I'd be surprised. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, as you look at USC and everyone has written Clay Helton's obituary, what would you replace Clay Helton with? What coach wants to come into USC that would leave a high-powered program and come into a place that has the lesser facilities? USC is not attractive, Charlton, because they don't have that on-campus stadium. The boosters are not there, and the program is down. And the Pac-12 is down as a whole. So you're going to have to really woo somebody if you get rid of Clay Helton, Who do you replace him with?
Well, money makes people change zip codes, Big C. They got enough money to make that happen, and I think it's always going to be a relevant program. Last game I'll mention, just for the sake of mentioning it, we have the Air Force Academy. They're 4-2. They're on the road at Hawaii, also 4-2. It's on CBS Sports Network. It's an 11 o'clock kickoff East Coast time, p.m., and Air Force is favored by 2.5. When you go over to Hawaii, I think a lot of people struggle simply because they spend too much time on the beach and their legs get heavy, Big C. Your thought?
Well, what a beautiful setting to be playing a game over at the University of Hawaii there on Honolulu, Charlton. I mean, it's picturesque. But, as you go over there and you enjoy all the amenities of what the Big Island can bring to you, Charlton, Hawaii has an outstanding team right now. Cole McDonald is an outstanding quarterback. He's one of the top 5 yardage passers in NCAA football this year, so it's no easy out going to Hawaii.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing, and they have a really good program. Hopefully they'll start getting more support, too. You can follow Big C Sports as we talk to you about Big C's Friday Night Lights. Also want to get into the HBC Black College Football Rankings. We want to bring up the Blue Bloods for college football, and we're going to come back and talk a lot about the NFL. We've covered Major League Baseball. I would love to be able to talk about the ALCS next week with the Yankees and Astros, but I don't know if that can happen. We'll take the Big C timeout, and we hope that you'll come back and join us. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back from what's called the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. And I really appreciate the way things are going. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, worldwide on the #1 podcast network in the universe and iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Spreaker.com. You can follow Big C Sports on TV on Xfinity Comcast Television. Also coming to Roku Network, Apple TV, Google TV, and Amazon TV, and other smart TVs around the universe. So thank you for your support with that, our sponsors. Big C, I wanna bring up, it's week 7 when you think about it, in Big C's NFL games. There's a lot of football games going on around this country, and everybody seems to think they have a chance to win their division and hopefully get into the playoffs. And before we get into it, though, I want to go back to last night's Thursday night football, because Patrick Mahomes, number one, he had a hitch in his giddy-up coming into this game. That was his ankle, I believe. And then last night what happened to him is he had this kneecap. His kneecap was, I didn't know you could dislocate a kneecap, but they pushed it back in while he was still laying down on the field. I don't know if that's a smart thing or not, but I'm not a doctor. Give me your thought on him. How would you reuse him once he comes back? Your thoughts?
Well, everybody's injury-prone in the NFL, and, it was questionable to call a quarterback sneak. You had a quarterback that was already had an injured leg. But, this is the perils of playing the NFL. When Patrick Mahomes comes back, you hope that Matt Moore can keep the team close. He struggled last night in coming in. They played the best defense I've seen the Chiefs play in a decade, Charlton. Yeah. It reminded me back when the late Derek Thomas was playing with the Chiefs, the pass rush that they had last night. Yeah. They came close to setting a team record for sacks in a game.
Yep.
But the offense is going to have to find a way to retool itself. And when you think about Moore at quarterback for the Chiefs, this guy was out of football last year.
Yeah.
And you constantly question how much are teams willing to lose of having these inept quarterbacks on their teams.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes is going to be out probably about a month with this knee injury as far as rehab. Will the Chiefs still be viable in the AFC West at that point?
Well, that's amazing. So we'll see what happens. Before we get into the NFL rest of the games, I want to go and just say, for all the people that keep saying, Colin Kaepernick should get a chance, as you mentioned, he had that collusion, that settlement with the league, and them good old boys are probably not going to let him in. There's always a chance to win the lottery, but it's a doubt whether they're going to want to admit they were wrong. I want to get into the game that used to be a marquee game. It's the Rams at 3-3 at the Falcons 1-5. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff on TV, East Coast time on Fox Sports. And the Rams are favored by 3 down in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. They're still a team that can throw the ball. Both teams have been struggling. Are you surprised we have 2 former Super Bowl contestants? And think about it. Combined, there are 4 wins and 8 losses in Week 7. Your thoughts?
Well, when I look at these two teams, something has to give. Jared Goff probably had his worst game as a pro last week, throwing for only 82 yards.
Yeah.
But he has outstanding receivers in Woods and Kupp, playing there. And so there's something that has to give offensively. When I look at the Falcons, they have the worst pass rush in the NFL. They're ranked 32nd. There's only 32 teams in the NFL. They had the worst pass rush in the NFL.
Yeah.
So when you take those two things and combine, and you think about the Falcons, they have the ability to score points. They've scored over 30 points in their last 3 games.
Yeah.
Even though they've been losses, they've been scoring points.
Yeah.
The Rams gave up just a couple weeks ago 50 points to Tampa Bay at home, 55. Throw a nickel on that also.
Yeah.
So when you look at these two teams that have been struggling, there was much made of both of these teams winning their division.
Yeah.
And neither one of them are in contention right now. One of these teams will completely be out of it after this game.
Yeah, and if Atlanta loses, I know there's a lot of talk about their coach finding a new zip code. The Dolphins,
Dan Quinn's a dead man walking. He won't make it through the season.
Yeah, they might barbecue him down there, Big C. The Dolphins 0-5 at the Bills 4-1. 1 o'clock kickoff, East Coast time Sunday on CBS Sports. And the Bills are favored by 15.5, Big C. Things have changed. Your thoughts?
Well, I look at the Miami Dolphins in their plight. They went back to Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback. The Buffalo Bills are 4-1. They have the one loss to the New England Patriots. The thing about Ryan Fitzpatrick is that he's played with so many teams in the NFL, he forgets which team he's throwing to sometimes.
Yeah.
I expect the Bills to have 3 or 4 interceptions in this game.
Yeah, maybe he's making some friends by being nice with the defensive guys. The Jaguars 2-3 at the Bengals 0-6. And that's a 1 o'clock kickoff East Coast time Sunday on CBS Sports. And the Jaguars are favored by 3.5. There's no Jalen Ramsey, but he hasn't been there for them in a long time anyway, attitude-wise or physically. Your thoughts on Jacksonville going forward without that baggage? Your thoughts?
I think we'll see a rejuvenation of the Gunnar Minshew show in Jacksonville. I see Jacksonville taking this game. Zach Taylor, the rookie head coach in Cincinnati, has no clue of what the NFL stood for from being in charge. When he was sitting there on the sideline with Sean McVay, having him take all the bullets and all the glory, he didn't know how to handle it when he came to Cincinnati. They can't blame Marvin Lewis anymore about the dysfunctional Cincinnati Bengals.
No, they can't like that. Big C, the Vikings 4-2 at the Lions 2-1. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff East Coast time Sunday on Fox Sports. And the Detroit Lions are favored by 1.5 over the Vikings. Do you like that? Do you like that, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, as I look at the Lions, Charlton, they could only muster up 1 touchdown last week against the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau.
Yes.
The Minnesota Vikings have a much better defense than the Packers, so I see the Vikings being stern defensively. Your cousin lit the airways up last week with 4 touchdown passes. His wide receivers are happy. He has an outstanding running game. The Vikings should win easily.
The Raiders are 3-2. They're at Lambeau Field. The Packers are 5-1. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff East Coast time, Sunday on CBS Sports, and the Packers are favored by 5.5. If anything, the Raiders just might have jet lag. They've traveled to Canada for a preseason game. They've been across the pond to play the Bears, and now they're playing back in America. They might not even know what country they're in this time, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this is the second time that these two have faced each other this year. You talked about them being up in Canada early in the preseason.
Yep.
Now they're going to be in Lambeau. I think that the Packers have gotten in a groove, and we saw what they did last week with that last-minute drive against the Detroit Lions. The Oakland Raiders are a fast-starting team. If they don't get off to a quick start, the Packers will make easy cheese of this one.
Well, them Raiders like cheese, Big Z. The Texans 4-2. At the Colts 3-2. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff East Coast time, Sunday on CBS Sports. And the Colts are favored by 1.5 over Watson's team coming in there. Deshaun, he makes a lot of things happen. I don't know how they get a favorite at home over that team, but who knows what's going on that we don't know about, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, the Colts are beat up a little bit defensively. And when you think about the Houston Texans' first 4 games of the season, Deshaun Watson was sacked as many times as any quarterback in the NFL. The last 2 games, his back hasn't gotten dirty, Charlton. Deshaun Watson, when he's on his feet, right now is the most electrifying quarterback in the NFL with Patrick Mahomes being hurt. But the Houston Texans will take this one over the Colts.
Yeah, it just seemed like an easy one to pick unless something is going on that we know about. It's just amazing how you can look at something on paper, you say, well, how could they lose? But it's all fair and love and war. That's why they play the game. The Cardinals, they are 2-3-1, and the Giants, they're at the Giants 2-4. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff East Coast time Sunday on Fox Sports, and the Giants are favored by 2. Now think about this. You get 2 young quarterbacks that were, really the eye of the NFL coming into the season, and both guys have 2 wins, and one's going to get his 3rd win against his other opponent coming out of college. Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at the Giants, Daniel Jones got off to a rocket start in his first 2 games.
Yeah.
2 phenomenal wins for the Giants, who had been struggling. But since then, they've come back down to earth, Charlton. Everybody's figured out what they do.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley is going to be back. I don't know if he's going to get many of his receivers back. But this is a team that, they are where they were supposed to be with 2 wins. I don't see them getting a 3rd this weekend.
Yeah, it's amazing. There was a time when rookies were drafted, you didn't give them a chance to come in and play. You had to have them sit on the bench and learn for a season or sometimes 2. I just want to get your update on how you think these quarterbacks are progressing, because it's not just a quarterback. They got to have an offensive line and receivers that can get open, and then a defense that can keep them off the field at times. How do you rate them so far in the season, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Daniel Jones surprised a lot of people in his first couple of games, but after that, he is what everybody thought he would be. When I look at Kyler Murray, who has consistently improved week in and week out, and you look at the numbers that he's been putting up. Last week put up over 320 yards against the Atlanta Falcons, Charlton, leading that team to a victory in the desert. So he's progressed. I mean, he started off slow, but he's 2-0-1. Well, he's 3-1 on the season. The Cardinals have gotten progressively better. They sped up the offense to play to his ability. Daniel Jones, he has to figure things out in the NFC East.
Yeah, well, I look forward to seeing young people kind of make their way through the waters, Big C. We have the 49ers, San Francisco 49ers. They're 5-0 at the Washington Redskins, 1-5. We've already had a coaching change, of course, for the Redskins. Gruden's out of there. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff East Coast time, Sunday on Fox Sports, and the 49ers are going to go across the country, and they're favored by 9.5. And as long as they bring their defense, they seem like the team that can compete anywhere, and they keep Garoppolo throwing short passes as opposed to trying to go downfield. Big, so your thoughts?
The 49ers will be 6-0 at the end of this game, Charlton.
Yeah, well, that may be said, but I want to get your thoughts, because I know when you look at Haskins, obviously they don't want to start him. The offensive line is a makeshift line, going to give Case Keenum some time to throw the ball downfield. But again, the records do speak for themselves. What do you see? Because we talked about Jones and also Murray when the Cardinals are going to play the Giants. The Niners are also going to go on the East Coast. They got another guy in Haskins. He's not starting, though. Do you still agree with that? Don't get him hurt until you build that offensive lineup to put him in there and risk him? Or should they throw him into the fire the way Daniel Jones and Murray to, cut your teeth now so you're good next year? Your thoughts?
Well, when they put Daniel Jones into the lineup in New York, he had a full complement of receivers. He had a healthy offensive line in front of him.
Yeah.
You don't have that in Washington. You put in Dwayne Haskins with that offense that they have in Washington, none of the veteran quarterbacks could operate in that system or find success.
Yeah.
So what would you expect from a rookie that has had no snaps with the number ones and has no experience in the NFL, and you have a very inept offense?
Yeah, well, at some time they got to put him in, but I understand hold him out some more. Another two teams that were just playoff teams last year. You look at the LA Chargers, they're 2-4. They're at the Tennessee Titans, also 2-4. It's a 4:05 kickoff East Coast time Sunday on CBS Sports. And the Titans are favored by 2.5. Now, I know there's a lot of talk about quarterbacks, Marcus Mariota, Ryan Tannehill, etc. And then will the Chargers even keep Melvin Gordon because he's healthy? Maybe they could trade him out. There's some talk. I think keep him. But it's disappointing when both of these teams, playoff teams last year, are 2-4 combined. Big, so your thoughts?
Well, you think about the Titans. They made a quarterback change for a quarterback that another team didn't want with the Miami Dolphins, and Tannehill will get the start. They've done nothing offensively in the last week. Derrick Henry's not running the ball well at all. They've got no productivity out of Mariota, and that's the reason why he's on the bench. I don't expect much more from Tannehill. When I look at Phillip Rivers, he's the only quarterback of that class that he was drafted in still playing. Ben Roethlisberger's out for the season. Eli Manning has been benched. If Phillip Rivers loses this game to Ryan Tannehill, I think that they need to look at benching Phillip Rivers.
Do you think that they would ever put Phillip Rivers on the bench when they still sell it as the prodigal quarterback? Now, my thing about the Chargers, I know money rules out. That's why people don't bring up China anymore. I understand that. But I thought it was a mistake that the Chargers went back to where they began. They started in L.A. and went to San Diego. But they had the fan base, they had the mojo. All of that was in San Diego. They came to L.A. and ironically made the playoffs by being in L.A. But I think they have to be a little bit disheartened when you have more teams on the visiting team at home like Pittsburgh did, and they're making more noise than your own fans can. And you even have your home PA system playing a song that the Steelers play back in Pittsburgh all the time. Now they're going down south. You know they don't have a big fan base. They have to feel a little bit disheartened if there is such a thing in pro sports. Mix of your thoughts.
Well, in pro sports, there's no disheartedness. You go to where the paycheck is coming from, Charlton, and that's what the Charger players did. When it was time to move to Los Angeles, they moved to Los Angeles. You play the game in the venue. You don't worry about who's in the seats and not in the seats. I mean, we could say the same thing about the game in the Pac-12 last night at Stanford Stadium. Do you feel that those college players were disheartened when you had 10,000 fans in the stands?
Yeah, they have to be, because I don't think, and I'll say it because of this. Whenever you go to any stadium, one of the worst things you can see if you're a fan or if you're a player is you look up and there's nobody there. As opposed to some of the games that we've seen on TV, where there's a pro game or a college game. You talked about Penn State and Michigan. They're going to have over 100,000 fans at that game. And I've heard from every player that they care. It makes a big difference when you have 100,000 as opposed to 10 or 15,000. And I think that's one of the reasons the Pac-12 will move their championship game in a couple of years out of Levi Stadium. So I think it does matter when you have a big crowd. That's why they're adding on stadiums. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, but the reason why they add on those stadiums, all those teams have something in common, Charlton. They win.
Yeah.
They win, and they have community outreach to those fans. They go out and they make sure that those fans are part of that organization, of that university. They have, you think about the Pac-12 as you and I talk about East Coast and South and East Coast football all the time.
Yeah.
The difference between them is that it's a lifestyle. It's what you choose to be a part of. When football is 365 days of the year in the South, and then in California, it's the first month of the season.
Yeah.
After that, everybody else figures out something else to do, because if they're not going to compete, but all the schools that are competing for championships, you talk about Happy Valley.
Yeah.
They're 6-0. There's nobody in the Pac-12 that is 6-0. So when those fans right off the back say, okay, we're not going to make the playoffs, let's start looking at something else to do.
Yeah.
You have to put a better product on the field for the fan to go out and spend their hard-earned money. They're not going to go to games as we saw last night. UCLA was 1-5. Stanford was 2-3 or 3-2 going into the game.
Yeah.
That's not appealing to the fans. So as you go look at the game with Michigan and Penn State tomorrow, Penn State is 6-0, ranked in the top 10 in the country. Michigan State is 5-1. They're ranked in the top 15. So that's a competitive game to the fans. Plus, you have such an alumni base that attends these games, Charlton, that's not distracted by other things that are going on, whether it's pro football, pro basketball, or pro baseball. They're tuned into those universities.
Yeah.
And that's something that the West Coast has lost the ability to do. Keep people faithful to their universities.
Well, I understand it starts with winning, and hopefully they'll start doing that again. I want to get back into the world of the NFL. And again, I think the Chargers should go back to San Diego. I know they're going to want to go to that new stadium because contracts are already signed. But if people aren't showing up at your party, maybe don't hold it at such a large venue. The Saints, they're phenomenal right now. They're 5-1 on the season. They're going into the Bears. They're going to play in Chicago, a 3-2 team. It's a 4:25 kickoff East Coast time, Sunday on Fox Sports. And the Bears are favored by 3.5. And I don't know if that makes any sense, because the Saints went into Seattle and won with special teams. They've been winning no matter who they played. And the Bears haven't struck me as a team that strikes fear right now, at least so far. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, we're going to find out tomorrow how good Teddy Bridgewater is. Well, matter of fact, on Sunday, he's going to be without Alvin Kamara in the backfield, so he's been deactivated for this game. So a lot of the weight is going to be on Teddy Bridgewater's shoulder. Can he get the ball out quick to his key receivers? and you know how effective that offense is going to be. We know that the defense has been playing outstanding.
Yeah.
So this is a game that the Saints may struggle a little bit in.
Well, I look forward to seeing that because I love when good high-powered offense versus a very physical defense. Want to see that. And maybe the game of the weekend will be the Baltimore Ravens 4-2 at the Seattle Seahawks that are 5-1 on this season. And I really like both programs, Big C. It's a 4:25 kickoff East Coast time Sunday on Fox Sports. And the Seahawks are favored by 3.5. And these two teams have the most dynamic quarterbacks in football, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm expecting a shootout in this game. A key is going to be the Seattle defense holding Lamar Jackson in check on the ground. They have to limit his running. They need to be able to keep him under 60 yards on the ground if they hope to be effective. We know that what Russell Wilson can do. He's a magician with the football. Probably the best pocket passer right now in the NFL as far as finding open receivers. I mean, he doesn't have the dynamics of a Patrick Mahomes as far as his ability to throw the ball from any angle.
Yeah.
But he has the best pinpoint accuracy of all the quarterbacks in the NFL.
Let me get your thoughts on something. When you think about the Seahawks, this is only the third time they've started the season at 5-1. Third time ever. And they've been rolling ever since. Is it to a disadvantage that they have to play the same kind of quarterback that beat them last time when they lost to the Saints? But we know the Saints, Teddy Bridgewater didn't beat them. It was a special teams loss, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, no, this is a completely different type of quarterback. When you think about Teddy Bridgewater, he has mobility, but he does not possess the athleticism of Lamar Jackson. He's a unique quarterback when you look across the landscape of the NFL. There's nobody who can duplicate his ability running and throwing combination in the NFL. What they have to protect themselves against, Charlton, is the running game. Not just Jackson, but Mark Ingram also.
Yeah.
Jackson is going to get his yards. You got to limit Mark Ingram, and you got to make sure that he doesn't exploit you with the deep ball.
Give me your thoughts on if you're on the other side of the ball and you look at a guy like Russell Wilson and you look at the defense that Baltimore is going to bring in there, and no one has really been able to stop Russell, but they can at least try to slow him down some. What would be the way that you could do that, if that's at all possible, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, no, you're not going to stop Russell Wilson. What you have to do is stop Carson, the running back.
Yeah.
That's the guy you have to stop. You have to force Russell Wilson to do more. But as long as Carson is controlling the ball on the ground, that creates more play action for Russell Wilson, and that's when he's been the most dangerous. Was when Carson's had 100 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
Seattle's been unstoppable.
Well, that's incredible. I just love watching great, talented teams play. I want to jump to Monday night before we come back to the big game I want to talk about also, because it has so many implications. The Patriots are 6-0. They're at the Jets 1-4. Of course, 8:15 kickoff East Coast time. Monday Night Football, ESPN Network. And the Patriots are favored by 9.5. You know, Sam Darnold's back now. I guess he got over that kissing disease that he had, mononucleosis. Had a long touchdown throw when the receiver fell down against Dallas. But the Patriots, that's a different breed of cat, Big C, if you could call a Patriot a cat. Your thoughts?
Well, the Patriots are just the best defense in pro football right now. You think about the big game that they won against Dallas. There was a few mistakes that, went the Jets' way in that game. A defensive back slipping down, a handful of penalties called on the final drive, and even a roughing penalty that wasn't called. So as we look at this, the Jets really don't have a chance against the Patriots. Tom Brady is going to be smarting after having a lackluster game last week, and he knows against the less talented performers, he has to go out and be his best. Even though the Patriots are down in their receiving core, Charlton, they'll make easy work of the Jets.
Yeah, I look forward to just seeing how people control that, the media. Well, Darnold media's matching the old man Brady. The game that, everything's big in Texas, especially the stadiums down there, high school, college, and pro, Big C. The Eagles roll in there. They're probably going to fly into down. I doubt they're going to roll in. They'll probably fly down into the DFW. They're 3-3. The Cowboys are 3-3. It's an 8:20 kickoff, East Coast time on Sunday. NBC Sports has a game. And the Cowboys are favored by 2.5. Now, it's going to be about Prescott and Wentz as far as media. But really, this is about offensive for both teams trying to keep their quarterbacks from trying to be Superman and win this game. Your thoughts?
This is a game that I don't see the Cowboys having an ability to win the game. They're without both of their starting offensive tackles,
Yeah.
Smith and Collins. They're without two of their top receivers, Cobb and Cooper.
Yeah.
So what does Dak Prescott to do? You going to rely on Jason Witten? I don't think so. The Eagles will blitz and come after him all night long. I give Carson Wentz the upper hand in this game. He has a better receiving core going into this game. The running games with Sanders is picked up for the Philadelphia Eagles. I see the Dallas Cowboys on a 4-game losing streak.
If you see that Jerry Jones celebrated his birthday last week with a loss to the New York Jets, the Jets of all people, Big C. And I know people want to talk about coaches on the hot seat for whatever reason, but it's not the coach's fault that they have so many players hurt for the Cowboys. But does that ultimately not matter when you're Jerry Jones, Big C? Your thoughts?
It doesn't ultimately matter with anybody. No one accounts for injuries when it's win-loss. Win-loss is win-loss. It doesn't say injuries caused the loss.
Yeah.
In that situation, they're going to say that the coach needed to have better backups to be able to fulfill those roles.
Yeah.
I just see right now as the Eagles being a better team. It's not about Dak Prescott. It's not about
Carson Wentz.
It's
Yeah.
just the Eagles right now have the better personnel that they're putting in an NFL game than the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, we love what sports can do. It brings a lot of people together, and that's why I love talking about it. I want to just go up north across the border. Canadian Football League, Big C style. Hamilton's 12-3. Montreal's 8-7. Toronto is 3-12, followed by Ottawa 3-12 in the East Division. In the West, you have Calgary. They're 10-5. Saskatchewan's 10-5. Winnipeg is 10-6. Edmonton is 8-8, and the BC Lions are 5-11. In tonight's game, Toronto's at Montreal, 7 p.m. East Coast time. Saskatchewan's at British Columbia. That's a 10 p.m. East Coast time game. And then Saturday's game, Ottawa's at Hamilton at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Winnipeg's at Calgary, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to just bring up the fact that you can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, worldwide on the #1 podcast network in the universe on iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Spreaker.com. You can follow Big C Sports on an app called Google and Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports podcast, and you'll see the song come up. You'll hear the broadcast announcers. You'll hear a lot of things that we love doing. And one of the things that I love doing, Big C, is bringing up Black History Month, because on this day is October 18th, and then it went into October 19th. If you think about it, as the curtain rolls on Paul Robeson, in the role of Othello, it was October the 19th, but they had everything prepared by the 18th. It was 1943 at the theater called the Guild Productions, and it marketed the 296 performance run. It ran so much that people loved the Shakespearean play that it actually added some credibility to African Americans' ability to act according to mainstream. We've always felt that we could do that, but that was so important that Robeson made that character get more opportunities for African Americans. But I want to mention something too. In 1948, that was even more important than that. It was when President Truman, he executed an order to desegregate the military, and that let everybody fight for this country, irrespective of what color you are. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the desegregation part, Charlton, was something that was long overdue as far as allowing African Americans to participate and fight for this great country.
Yeah.
They had always been fighting in every war in America, but they were always treated as second-class citizens in the military. But to be able to fight shoulder to shoulder, Charlton, with the rest of the men in the military fighting force was a tremendous move by the president.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, and we all have a chance to celebrate our military, and it's an integrated military. Really appreciate that. Big C, we talk about so many things on Big C's Friday Night Lights. We talked about the HBC, Black College Football, the ALCS with the Yankees playing Houston in New York. Will it be their last game? We don't know. And then we get into college football. A lot of big games coming up tonight as well as Saturday. And then, of course, we love NFL. We're going to be talking more NBA basketball as we come back next week, as a lot of teams are starting to get things in order. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in this boys' universe?
Well, Charlton, this is going to be one of the first real movement weekends that we've had in college football. We're looking at top 10 competitors going out, having an opportunity to stay undefeated, but I think 2 of the top 10 will fall in college football this weekend.
It's going to be electric, and I think people are going to love it. Please be safe outside if you're out going to games. No drinking and driving. Don't let anyone drink and drive. I love bringing you Big C Sports. Big C Sports, you can follow Big C Sports every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.